Good morning, a good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from, and welcome to our joint webinar with Content Snare. Really excited that we're joined by Tom and Jackie. I'll let Tom do the proper intros to who they are rather than me because he knows himself and Jackie better. But I wanted to start by saying that first of all, today this session is actually CPD certified, so make sure you look out for your certificate once you've done it and you claim your points on that. And feel free to share around the office if that's enjoyed. We're not expecting any technical issues, so if anything does go wrong, probably best to come off the link and rejoin. And what we really encourage you to do throughout the whole session is put any questions in, specifically about the product or anything that you're interested in. If you are around now and just want to drop a hello into the question Q&A box or into the chat box just so we know you're there, it's good because we can see it and also we know we're speaking to people as well, which is great. But after all that, after my waffle, I'm going to pass over to Tom. I'll disappear, but I'll be in the background the whole time and enjoy the webinar.
Amazing. Thank you, Alex. Hi, everyone. Like we said, in the chat function, let us know you're here. It'd be great to know where everyone's come from and where you're viewing from. I know that this is kind of being seen globally, which is great. We do have, and not to throw him under the bus too much, but you should have the option to send a chat to a specific person. We do have James Rose, who's joined us. He's the co-founder. So if you do have any questions or features that you'd like to see, do feel free to find James Rose in the chat section and send him a message. We're going to run through this session. Obviously, we've got Jackie with us. The session today is very much about how to kind of simplify tax season and basically how to automate that as much as possible. So we're spending less time on that last minute rush. So here are your speakers. I'm Tom Johnson. I'm the Global Business Development Manager for Content Snare. What that means is I help accountants and bookkeepers understand where Content Snare fits in their business and give you everything you need. But today I want to highlight Jackie Trumper, who's joining us from. I met Jackie at I think it was a Zero Roadshow when I first moved to Australia. And everyone was like, well, you need to speak to Jackie. Then Jackie came to a partner breakfast that I did. And everyone, all the feedback was pretty much not about how great the breakfast was, it was about how great Jackie is. So I'd like, obviously, to give Jackie that intro. But Jackie, would you like to just give a bit more of a background about yourself?
Hi, I'm Jackie. I'm from Black Cat Accounting. I started my business about 3 years ago. Content Snare was one of the first apps that I signed up for. So I am a tax agent, chartered accountant, small business clients mostly.
Yeah, amazing. And general Content Snare legend. What's really great, and you're going to see this later in the webinar, Jackie's actually built a couple of templates that sit in Content Snare, which are absolutely awesome. I can also see that it looks like some people can only see the Q&A, not necessarily the chat. So for now, let's just use the Q&A as a chat function. And yeah, we can kind of talk through there. So the agenda today, what we're going to talk about is kind of the problem, why tax season feels like this mad rush. We're then going to talk with Jackie, kind of her story, and a bit of an interview. And if there's anything that you take away from that webinar, it's that bit there. That's probably the most critical part because you're going to hear from somebody that has kind of automated this process, and obviously Content Snare is a big part of that. That's the key bit to really focus on. Then Jackie's going to do a live walkthrough of her actual template. There's a feature spotlight. There's 3 key features that I think are really going to help you if tax season feels like a bit of a mad rush. Then we've got a Q&A. So one of the things that you might be thinking is, what is Content Snare? Who are you? What do you do? Content Snare is basically an easy way for clients to give you information without the back and forward. So what it does is it takes that tangled mess of client communications. You might have portals, you might have emails, you might even have paper sent to your desk. That's a really cluttered view. What Content Snare does is it makes it really easy for clients to give you the information that you need to do the work. It's that simple. And there's loads of different industry use cases. Within accounting and bookkeeping, here are some of the ones that people use at the moment. So client onboarding, the big one that we're kind of here for at the moment, year-end compliance, queries. If you're based in Australia, obviously there's the new TASA ID verification. Content Snare has ID verification in the platform, so you'd be able to do your TASA legislations there. Client agent linking, month-end advisory. you can imagine basically whenever you need your clients to give you some form of information, content snare is the answer. And you can see from Illuminate there, if you need to collect information from clients, stop doing it manually and just use content snare. Probably couldn't have asked for a better quote. And here's just some general stats. One of the things that we're really proud of is our ISO certification. So ISO certified is the global recognized level for information security. So it means that the information that you and your clients share is incredibly secure. There's also some other great things here. People that use content snare see a 50% reduction in emails, which I think we can all agree less emails is a good thing. Cool. And then this is the bit for you here. Get a 30-day free trial. So all you have to do right now is if you want to try this, you can scan this QR code, set up your account, and then start using content snare. The thing that I want to draw your attention to is the bottom here. For this session only, we're doing a prize draw. So that prize draw is if you start a trial and content snare is for you, you'll enter a prize draw and you'll get 12 months of content snare for free. Again, the account is a free trial account. You'll get full access. All you have to do is scan that QR code, start playing with it. You'll enter the prize draw and you could win 12 months of content snare for free. So that's a brief background on content snare. I've just seen from Mary Lewis, Jackie is a rock star with content snare. I think we can both agree on that one. Cool. So that's content snare. We've got that bit out of the way. Now I want to talk about the problem when it comes to tax season and doing things. So if you're based in Australia, ITRs. If you're based in America, personal tax. If you're based in the UK, self-assessments. The thing is, and this is the problem, you need clients to send you information so you can do their return. As great as we have Xero, bank fees, QuickBooks, whatever you're using, you still need clients to either confirm the info or give you that information. So you start that process, and then rather than doing the work, the return, your job becomes getting the information. And that translates into things like endless manual follow-ups. Clients often kind of give you incomplete, incorrect, unorganized information. So you spend a lot of time sorting. And what that does is it makes it really hard to track the status of requests. So what happens is you create almost like this massive bubble of work for yourself. It creates a huge bottleneck. And it can often look like this. A lot of firms, they have this process. You have the best intentions with portals, emails, templates, checklists, meetings, online documents, but it becomes all this massive tangled mess. And then here is the story. And this is one, I've personally been in the space for a while and spoken to hundreds, maybe thousands now of accountants and bookkeepers. And this is generally the story, right? You start with the best intention. So you send out the initial request. You say, look, this is what we need from you. This is the tax season. You send that out. The client maybe responds to one of 5 things. You might get a blurry picture of someone's dog and you say, we need this. And then they kind of disappear until it's time to actually file. We're talking until the deadline. So you then spend all of this time chasing clients for documentation rather than actually progressing the work. And then when you're doing all of that, the client kind of gives you the information, but the problem is you've started chasing the client. Maybe your practice manager started chasing the client. The client's also devised that they thought it would be great just to chuck it all into QuickBooks, Xero Sage, whatever they're using. So now you've got this deadline that's fast approaching, right? And you're having to piece together all of this information and find out where the information is, then put it all together and then get it all done before the deadline. And the biggest problem there is it's just this massive piece of you just chasing to the point where it's like, right, we need to do the work. And that's where that quote comes in, is if you give someone a week to do something, they'll take a week. Most people know that when you start the process, they've got 6 months until they actually need to file. So most people leave it to the last minute. And that's part of why that mad rush kind of happens. So with content snare, what we do is we kind of flip that out a little bit. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, and at this point now I'm going to chat with Jackie. And what we're going to do now is really find out a little bit more about Jackie, and also more importantly kind of what her previous experience in this process has looked like, and kind of go into that a little bit more. So Jackie, first and foremost, can you just kick us off? I know you've given us a bit of a background, but can you just give us a bit more of an extensive background about what it is you do at Black Cat?
So I'm the sole person. I'm a sole practitioner. It's just me. I've been in this business for about 16 plus years. The last three with my own business. And this is previous firms have not used Content Snare, and it was a mess, and I hated it. So when I started my own business, I'm like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to go straight with Content Snare and fix that. Don't want anything to do with mess.
Okay, cool. So you kind of touched on it a little bit there.
Mm.
From your previous experience, what did this process and kind of, I call it tax season, right? There's obviously loads of seasons, but things like ITR, self-assessments, there's a lot of them. What was your previous experience like?
So it varied. Some firms we would send out a generic checklist, a PDF document to clients. Sometimes we'd only send it to them if they specifically asked for them, but otherwise it was just up to the clients to decide what to give us. And half the time they wouldn't give us everything, so we'd have to go back to them and say, what about this? What about that? And sometimes I remember one time we sent out a generic checklist to the client. Like, it had everything that you could possibly need. And the client says, I don't understand this. What am I supposed to give? I don't know what I'm supposed to give. And so we ended up having to spend time making bespoke checklists for each person, one by one by one. And it just takes so much time. And ITRs, tax returns, they're low margin. You don't have time to be spending all this time faffing about getting information.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Like you said there, the low margin. It's one of those where you know that you kind of need to solve it, but the margin is so low. It's like, is it worth even solving it? But then by the time you've kind of deliberated that, the process has started, you're in that loop, and then it gets to the next year, and you always kind of say to yourself, maybe next year, and it just keeps going. And like, you speak with a lot of firms. What are the things that you're seeing these firms struggle with?
Getting the information from the client in a timely manner without everybody being stressed. But then the problem is, and the reason they don't, it changes hard, like they just keep, like you said, they just keep going the way they always have, and will change later on because it's too hard, it's too much effort, too much work. And they're like, the clients won't accept it. They probably will.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Client dictation. And I guess, like it seems, and like I said, I speak to a lot of firms, you speak to a lot of firms, you run your own firm. It seems like a lot of people are aware of this process and it isn't great, yet they haven't changed it. You touched on client change being an issue. Why do you think it is that people still aren't making that leap?
I think people, they think too much because, okay, so there's a lot of accountants who don't like change. Change is hard because, especially if you have a big business, a big firm with a lot of people, there's a lot to manage when you change your processes. You also have, a lot of firms have a lot of legacy clients. This is the way we've always done it. Therefore, we assume the clients always want to do it this way. So start small. Just pick a small handful of clients that are tech savvy, roll it out with them. Just give it to them to get their feedback. Say, we're trialing this new process for efficiency and to streamline our processes. Tell me what you think of it. Chances are they're going to say, this is amazing, this is great, this is better than what we had before. Now I know exactly what I'm supposed to give you and when I'm supposed to give it to you. And then use their feedback to tell the next lot of clients, look, we've trialed it out with a few. They've said it's great. Here it is for you too. And next thing you know, everyone's changed. You don't have to change it all in one go.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's I speak to a lot of people and they say, oh, it won't work for this client, or I've got this client in mind. But actually, really, whenever you're testing it, you want to test it with the people that you know are going to be more receptive, because then it's so much easier. It's like that low hanging fruit. You said, so obviously you've got your experience from your previous firms where it's a bit of a stressful period, a bit of a mess. You wanted to look at improving this process. What was it that made Content Snare stand out? And when you first started using it, how did you start using it?
It stood out to me. They're based in Brisbane. I'm based in Brisbane. I like local software. But what I tried out, the jot form and the type form. I could not get them to look nice from the client point of view. They looked ugly from the client point of view, and I don't want anything to do with ugly. I want it to look good. I want it to be easy. I want the clients to accept it. So it's very easy to make Content Snare easy for the client. It's easy to create templates. It's easy to make the requests. It's easy for the clients to use it. It has a lot of features that make things that make it so that it's easy for the clients to give you what you want them to give you the first time without a lot of back and forth and time consuming.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Jackie, would you like to start writing some of our copy for us, just as a side note? I think that would be. Susan Napper's also just noted as well. She said it's a great idea to roll out in stages with specific clients. That's the biggest thing, right? It's like if you try and do it all at once, that's a lot of load to manage. If you have every firm will have these clients that you could maybe pick up the phone to and you'd be like, oh, hey, how's it going? I'd start with those clients because they're just going to be completely authentic with you and they're going to be a lot more open-minded. And then when you've got that traction, it's a lot easier. You going in with the confidence of going, yes, we know this tool works. This is how it looks, to all the clients that might be a little bit more closed-minded. So, you said there, content snare, the reason why you started using it was really, you couldn't find anything that was specific enough for you, for the way that it looked, for the way that it should feel, and more importantly, how it helped your clients, that client experience. When you first started using it and you started using this process, so let's talk a little bit more about your ITRs and stuff. You started using this process of content there. Were there maybe any like early wins or surprises that you found?
Nobody complained. I've had no complaints whatsoever. I've had no difficulties whatsoever. I've just sent this out. I use this for onboarding as well. So new clients, they understand from the get-go, this is how I'm collecting information from you. And so far, no one has balked at it. Everyone has been able to use it. I had one client who was very much not tech savvy. She kept apologizing. I'm not tech savvy. I'm not tech savvy. She used it. No problems whatsoever. And so my biggest surprise was that it worked very, very well, and I had no issues whatsoever with any clients. So
It was quite a good surprise, I guess. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like one of the reasons why people's tax season kind of gets held up and you find yourself on deadline day trying to fix all of this stuff is because everyone's trying to cater to their clients rather than cater to their process with a tool that has a great client experience. Because at the end of the day, if a plumber comes to your house, you're not going to go, oh, what wrench are you using there? What screwdriver are you using there? You're going to be like, great, you've done it. You've done the job. And then if they say, okay, I need you to do this, whatever that process might be, you just want the easiest process that you can just do. And that sounds like kind of what you've experienced with content standard.
I want the best client experience. I want to be as foolproof for the clients to use as possible. Seamless, they just go in and do it. I don't want them to be struggling or confused, because then it's just messy for everyone again.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that's the thing, right? Is on this webinar, one of the things we spoke about, or the title is tax season is kind of automated. Part of the automation comes from your clients having a great experience, right? That's kind of step number one. When we look at your whole process for ITRs and getting information in, what does, and I think a lot of people would be keen for this, what does that process look like from start to finish?
So from start to finish, I send out proposal engagements from Ignition first up. Especially for ITRs, you don't know if they're going to come back year after year. So I'm not going to be putting too much effort in if they've decided to go elsewhere. So Ignition engagement goes out. They accept it. It doesn't matter where your engagement's going from, but for me, it's Ignition. That goes out. They accept it. I send out the questionnaire to the client. It's templated. It takes 2 minutes. Just send it out. You can bulk send them out if you get a bunch of them accepting their proposals all together. You can batch that work. Questionnaire goes out to the client. They complete it, and it's not until it's completely completed, everything is finished and everything is reviewed and checked and everything is ready to go, that's when I start the job, because I don't want to be picking up and putting down. I kind of also want to get Zapier involved in the Ignition content snare part. I'm sure it's possible to get Zapier to make Ignition send out the questionnaire automatically. That's my next step.
Yeah, that absolutely is. Okay, so just to recap, so you've got Ignition going out and saying, look, do you want to do this? And you're sending that at bulk, so it's not like a, hey, do you want to, because in fact, that's one of the things that some of the firms that are coming to us are having is they've done the work and they've had to chase for billing and they've not been paid for it. So you're agreeing with Ignition and saying, great, let's start here. When they do that, you're then sending out your content snare template, and then you're getting that information in, right?
Yep.
Cool. And
So
then
everything
from
is
there,
done. They've paid up front for ignition. I've got all the information in. It's ready to go. By the time it gets ready to go, you just do the return, send it out. That's all there is to do it.
so let me get this clear. So by the time you've actually had to, when I mean start the work, I mean actually do the return. By the time you've come to really start working on this, rough percentage out of 100%, how much percentage of the work is done?
Well, I've got all the information. That's all in a folder. Whether you use FYI, Dropbox, I have it export out to Dropbox. All the information is there. All I have to do is put it into the actual tax return, really.
Okay, cool. And then with the obviously the ignition bit in there, so it sounds to me, obviously I'm not a qualified accountant, but it sounds kind of like 90-95% of the job is already done. Cool.
Yeah.
And
It's just
for those that are
actually
like,
filling in the tax return.
cool. So for those that are wondering, how do I automate this process? The reality is very simple. Get your engagement process done right. That might be ignition or whatever tool you want to use. And then when that happens, send out your content snare request. The information comes in, and then you just start. And when you're ready to start the return, away you go, right? So
And you can organize that amongst your team however you want. So you don't have to have the accountant who's doing the work. They don't have to be doing any of that first part. They can, if you want them to, just come in at the point where the job is ready to go. You could have your admin team reviewing the questionnaire if you wanted to. Or
yeah,
grad, been there a week, with work experience person, anyone can.
yeah, and I think that's where the templates really comes in, doesn't it? Because and some people might be sat here like, what are you talking about templates? Just for a bit of context there, Jackie's going to show you in a minute. With Content Snare, you can create a template, so an ITR template, a self-assessment template, whatever it is. Once that's done, you can then just reuse that. So you can then send that out. So yeah, what you could do is if you did have an apprentice, you could say, hey, look, we've got all these clients. We want you to start engaging with them now. And then by the time the accountants actually come round to, or the client managers come to do the job, like you said there, realistically, 90% of the job should be done for them. As whereas right now, when they come to do the job, maybe 30% of the job is done because they're trying to get the information in, right?
You've got to keep following up the job, because when you've got information going everywhere, especially if it's by email, if the accountant is sending out the email, the client's going to send it back to that accountant. So they're the only person who can check. If the admin team sends out the email to the client, they're going to send it back to admin, and admin has to check, or it has to go back and forth. So you've got so much time invested in before you even get to do the return. You don't need all that.
Amazing. I love it. Cool. Also, just a quick side note: if you do have any questions or you want to dig into any of these other stuff, do use the Q&A section. Obviously, we'll make sure any question that you ask is answered. So, I feel like we've kind of touched on why you started using Content Snare, the impact that it makes. Like most people, like I said, you bunch all of the work up into a small space because clients don't give it to you, and then you have to do the return. What you're doing is you're using Ignition to say, yeah, we're going to do it. Yes, we are. Send out the Content Snare, and away you go. With the Zapier integration, yeah, you can connect Zapier. So what you could actually do is when somebody agrees the proposal, you could automatically send out a Content Snare. So that would be that next step. I think we touched on a lot there. One of the things you mentioned about is stress, and I think a lot of people don't talk about that too much. But you said prior to Black Cat, you were living in this kind of real stress orientated workload based issue. Now with this automated process, what does your ITR period look like for you?
It's so much more orderly because everything is processed. So the engagement goes out, the questionnaire goes out, then the work gets scheduled, and I just do the work when it's scheduled, as against clients bringing in their information, and then it's got to go through a process of everyone checking to make sure it's going back and forth and back and forth. And meanwhile, the client thinks they've sent you everything, but they haven't. It's so much more orderly, if that makes sense. Everything is more streamlined and sensible, rather than just that tangled mess drawing you had.
Cool. I think the thing is, what's really great here is, we have all these, like, your workflow might look like this, and what's great is, you're kind of validating everything that's being said there. Just final question on this piece here. Generally, what is with this improved process, what is the wider impact here?
What impact is you get. The problem is when you have just clients doing whatever they want, sending whatever they want, whenever they want, you end up with potentially jobs going missing, jobs not being done properly. You end up with your workflow potentially a mess. You end up with some accountants with this massive workload and some with less. If you have everything in an orderly fashion and everyone knows what they're doing, everyone has access to everything, the client knows what they're doing, all the accountants know what they're doing, stress levels overall, so much less because everything is orderly. I don't know if it's just me, but I hate everything being in a mess and all over the place, that overwhelm and the stress involved. And with everything being so busy in tax season, you don't need to add more stress and overwhelm. We need to reduce it as much as we can. And so I think everyone benefits from things being more orderly. The accountants, the admin team, the clients, and we reduce everyone's stress. Everything gets done and everybody is happy. That's my goal anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's the thing, isn't it? If you're like yourself, you're running your own firm, you've got visibility across all your clients and you're saving so much time. The second part is, if you're in a larger firm, if you're a manager and you're like, where is everybody at? That can be really difficult if your process is all over the place. So if you're like a practice manager right now or an MD and you want to know how effective your process is, it's going to be really hard to figure that out. When you add order to that, that's when you can start setting effective KPIs. So,
but also
Anna,
you can do things like the client phones up reception and says, where's my return at? Reception can look in Contents Snare and say, oh, we're just waiting on this information from you. Easy done. It doesn't have to go back to the accountant at all because the receptionist can see all the questionnaires and see exactly which questions have been answered or not. And the client goes, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly right. And Anna's actually asked a question about they all resonate with the stress. Can we demonstrate the process? That's actually the next question I was going to ask you. You built an LTR template. What you're going to do now is kind of run through that template and then just walk us through some of your favorite features and stuff. So I'll hand over to you to do that next part.
Let me share my screen. So this, can we see my screen? Is that fine? Yep.
Yeah, I can see it.
Cool. So these are all the templates that you get when you sign up to Content Snare. And the particular one we're looking at is this one, Individual Tax Return Questionnaire. Everyone has access to this. This is the one I created. And
sorry, Jackie, just to cut in, would you be able to just zoom in a little bit?
Oh, zoom. Yes, sorry. Zoom. Is that better? No. One more.
One more.
There we go.
I think that's great. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, cool. Here's when I prepared earlier. So this is a request that I've created this morning from that template. Now, just to hang on, select mode. This is what the client sees. Down here on the left is the index. Now you can see there's 25 questions. Keep that in mind. But meanwhile, where are we? Hang on. Let me just go back to, here we go. This is the back end. This is what we see. I counted up this morning. There's 83 questions here. Most clients will not see all 83 questions because of one of my favorite features, which is conditional questioning. It's like a choose your own adventure. Most of the questions when the client sees it is do you have this? Do you have this? They're all yes, no questions, but they all have a lot of detail behind them. So the client is aware of what exactly you have to provide. So for the purpose of this question, don't forget where you've rented out a part of your room. Don't forget Airbnb. And partly it helps the client answer the question properly the first time, but also partly it's CYA on your part. The client can't come back later on and say, oh, we didn't know, you didn't tell us, because there it is. So all they have to do is they say yes, no. If they say do you have any rental properties? If they say yes, they get all of these rental property questions. But if they say no, they don't have to bother with it. So then we come back to the original one where I was talking about sending the clients a generic checklist that everyone gets and them being confused. Do I have to provide all this? I don't know. Everyone gets a bespoke checklist without having to put the work into actually creating the bespoke checklist. There are, what else do I like? Everywhere I've asked to upload documents, I have restricted the file type to PDF because I personally don't like them sending JPEGs and Word documents and all sorts of random formats. That doesn't work for me. I want them all to send PDFs. What else? A relatively new feature that's come out that I was really excited by. Where is it? Internal questions. So these are questions that the clients can't see, only you can see. And when I've asked up here, how many work-related questions did you travel? What you can do is you can actually do that calculation and put the number into the questionnaire before you complete the questionnaire, so that when it's completed and the accountant comes along to do it, that maths has already been done. It's already there, ready to go. It's also there within your work paper. So this prints out as a PDF for your work papers, and it's already there. And it means that if you've got an admin member, a grad in their first week who has no idea how to calculate this, it doesn't matter because it's right there. The other thing, I've got all these CYA questions down here. There's a lot of things. What else do I like? That's about it. But the idea is this questionnaire is very, very thorough, very, very detailed. It includes literally everything you could possibly need to get them so that you don't have the back and forth. The client knows exactly what to do. The other thing I've done in a lot of these is included a lot of information about what it is we're expecting. You can include links. So where is it down here? Do you wear a uniform? Now here's all the detail about uniform. These are all the uniforms you can create. So there's no guessing on the client's part. Oh yeah, I wear a uniform. And there's links to the ATO. So you can say, okay, here's more information here on this. If they choose not to read that, that's not your problem. Provided them with the information. And then of course, right at the very beginning, there's this please read carefully. It's all your responsibility to fill in this questionnaire correctly and be an adult and actually read the instructions, ideally.
I love it. So just in terms of the process there, so you've done the ignition part. People have come in and said, yeah, we're going to do that. You then go into Content Snare, you grab this template, and then you just send it out, right?
Yep. You click here, new request, done, creates it, tell it who you're sending it to. That's it, done, sends it out. And then it has reminders, so it will automatically send reminders out to your client so you don't have to. This morning I had a reminder sent out to a client who hadn't finished his questionnaire, and 5 minutes later I get another notification that he started answering the questions. And I did nothing, I just sat back and watched it all happen. It was great.
And it's really difficult to almost go any further, because that's, to an extent, that's pretty much your workflow right there, isn't it? It's you agree, send this out, the info starts flowing in, and then away you go. We've had a couple of questions come in. One of those was from Alexandra. They said, how do you service should be included in an engagement letter if a checklist hasn't been completed by a client? They normally send out a checklist, and once done, they then send the engagement letter because they know what to invoice for depending on the info in the checklist.
Because I use Ignition comes with a template for ITRs that has the base rate, which is just your standard tax return, wages, a few deductions. And then the way Ignition sets it up is that there are additional add-ons. So you have a rental property, you have investments, you have CGT, all these are additional add-ons that the client agrees to be charged, but you actually charge the client for them after the return is complete. I was talking to some people recently about how you might do that if your engagements are, say, a Word document or something else. And you can still do the same thing. You can have, okay, this is how much my base tax return is, but also this is how much we will charge for a rental property, for sale of shares, for this, that, and the other. List whatever other services you could possibly have in an individual return. They sign that engagement, and then you charge them for that because you've engaged them to do that. The problem with them asking them to fill out all these questions before you've engaged them is what happens if they decide not to go ahead for whatever reason. I personally like to quote upfront for my clients and say, this is how much it's going to cost you. Agree or don't agree. But if they don't agree with my price, very little time has been wasted by anybody. So that's the way I like to do it. Obviously, there's no wrong answer here, but that's how I do it.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you didn't want to do it that way, you could essentially send this out to somebody and then say, look, let's engage off the back. What you could do, Alexandra, on that point there, is you could create a small checklist. Like these are the highlights that you need to invoice for. Check which is relevant, and then from there you could send out the engagement and then send out the remainder of the request.
The other option is you could, just thinking out loud, you could embed the engagement in the ContentSnare questionnaire. So this is a page 1. You could create, say, a page before this, which is engagement. You could attach, because any of these questions, you can attach files, you can attach links, you can attach anything you want, videos even. So you could attach your terms and conditions, your engagement letter. You could say, okay, you could make a signature field and say, okay, sign here to say you agree. Here's the quote. You could do that if you wanted to. Embed the engagement process into the questionnaire along with the questions.
Amazing. And then Susan asked about the internal question. Did that auto-calculate?
It doesn't. I have mentioned that to James, that would be a great thing if it could.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
That is something that we have raised. At the moment, no, but at least kind of the format is there. So when someone does pick it up, they know what that calculation needs to look like. There's another question in here about if a client wants to attach a file, for example, a rental agreement, but they want to discuss with you any questions regarding it before attaching it, how would ContentSnare be used for that process?
So what happens is whenever you have any questions at all, there is always this ask a question button. So the client can leave a comment and you can reply to that comment. You can have a whole little conversation in comments here, back and forth. Every time they leave a comment, I get an email to say they've left a comment. When I leave a reply, they get an email to say I've replied. And what that does is it keeps that conversation within the questionnaire. It keeps it out of emails. Keeps it within the questionnaire. And it means that when you do print out this questionnaire, when you get the PDF of the questionnaire afterwards, you do get a print. That comment section is included, so that's good for work papers. But yes, every question, they can ask a question here. They can leave a comment.
Amazing. Susan said that she's going to create a new client form that has the ID check in it and the engagement letter all in one document.
There's so much you can do.
Yeah, exactly right. The other one is, are these questions grouped by per client as a set of questions, or are they designed to filter responses based on each individual asked to the client?
So I send a separate questionnaire, a separate request to each client. Each individual client gets their own separate request. That's the way I like to do it. There's nothing to stop you from adding together as many of these templates, this group of questions, as many of those as you want. So you could put as many people's worth of questions here as you want. And then what you could do is go back. Go forward. Okay, hang on. We've gone too many places. You could do, Joe blogs. And then you could add another, you could duplicate this for Jane blogs. You could do that. Does that answer the question? Is that what we're asking?
Yeah, I believe so. If not, at least obviously we can take that offline and dive into that a little bit more. But I think that's.
I like to do one for each, because it's neater from my filing point of view to have each one separately. But nothing will stop you from doing several.
So obviously, I think maybe the difficulty that people might struggle to see right now is obviously when that information comes in, because the information you've got available is your client data. Could you just give a quick run through of, so you send this out to the client, they start returning the information, just a quick overview of what that process looks like there?
So what I do is when I know that they've completed all the questions, then what I do is I go through and I check. Now, I don't have a completed one that I can show you all my completed ones because this is my actual account and I can't publicly show my clients' data. But what it looks like is basically, we'll answer a few of these questions. So I can show you. Did you earn salary and wages? They go, yes. Oh, I can't actually. Hang on. Pre-fill. We'll go test mode. Yes. They click submit for review. And then what I get is, well, this is not actually what it looks like. You get a green button here that says approve, and you get a button that says reject. So I go through each question one by one and I click approve. There is a button at the top where you can approve the whole questionnaire in one go if you want, but I prefer to approve one question at a time so I can check that they've actually answered it the way I want them to answer. So I click approve. If I don't like their answer, if they've uploaded the wrong document, answered incorrectly, I can click reject, add a comment and say, try again, or words more professionally than that. If they've answered something that I need more clarification on, I can ask them a question, submit them, give them a comment and say, can you just clarify this for me? Can you confirm this? And then once all the questions are approved, you see how there's a little green tick? Once all the questions are approved, they go blue. And then there's a button at the top that says complete. And that exports it. I've got it set to automatically export out to Dropbox. And what I get in Dropbox is a PDF of the entire questionnaire, including any comment threads. If they've not answered a question, if they've left something blank, it says no answer given so that you can prove that they haven't actually answered that question. What you also get in the zip file is any documents that they've uploaded, the actual PDFs that they've uploaded. And that all comes out in a nice, neat and tidy zip file if you export to Dropbox or OneDrive or anything like that. You can also have it export to FYI, and all those documents will be in the cabinet that you've set up when you set up the FYI integration. Ready to go, whatever your work paper format is.
Perfection. Cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hijack the screen from you. Sorry. And I'm just going to quickly show you. So there's kind of three features here that I want to run through that are going to be really useful if you're doing like ITR self-assessments. So when you first log into Content Snare, this is what you'll see. Just for reference, when Jackie was talking about the approve reject buttons, on your side of things, what you're going to see is, where are we? You'll see this, right? So if I remove that, you'll see approve, reject, and revise. This is what Jackie was talking about. So you can approve stuff, you can reject it, and you can say like missing middle name, for example. The client will get notified, and when they come into that, you'll see right there. Apparently today on James Rose as well. So you'll be able to see that. That's the button that Jackie was talking about, the approval submitted. So you wouldn't have to go through every single one if you didn't want to. But what I want to do is I want to jump out this. There's kind of three features that I really wanted to highlight that's going to really help you get started. First and foremost is this, recurring and bulk. Now, you don't want to be sending probably this to everybody all at once. So what you can do is you can take your template, you can take one of our templates, and you can basically, let's just go here, use this template. You can choose this, give it give it a title, give it a description, add variables in there. So for example, you could add a variable, and one of those variables might be client name, just for your own reference. Save and continue that. And then what you can do is you can actually select the clients you want this to be sent out to. So if you want to send this to all of your clients, you can just send it to all your clients. If you've got like a group of 50, you can go through, you can search. When you're happy, what you can do is you can say, right, send this immediately, send this now, and give it 2 weeks notice. So all of a sudden, you've got all your engagements coming in and say, yes, we're going to do ITRs. You come into Content Snare, you grab your template, and you ping it out to everyone all at once. And then that leads into the second feature, which is the automated reminders. So Jackie touched on, somebody got one of your clients today, right? Got an email from Content Snare, and it then triggered them to go and do the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so
I love the automatic reminders. I love that.
So the automatic reminders, we have a default schedule, and you can choose which schedule you want to send out to your client. But it's essentially a series of if statements. So you can see after 5 days of the request being published, so sent out, you can obviously choose this. If no fields are completed, some but not all fields are completed, wherever it is, you can send an email, but you can also send a text message as well, which is quite great. One of the things that I really like here, and I've seen more firms do this, is if, for example, after like, let's say 10 days, the request like after 10 days of the due date, no fields have been completed, what you can actually do is you can also send a reminder to the request owner. And that reminder might simply say, hey, this client hasn't done anything or moved on it. It might be worthwhile either re-engaging or picking up the phone and speaking to them. So you have this control. Again, you've got the option to email and SMS on this as well. With the reminder schedule, you can create your own schedule. You don't have to use our schedule. You can also create your own templates. You can see here we can add images, links, everything you want. So you're in total control of the reminders. And then the final part is exactly this, the templates. So the template that Jackie just showed you, Jackie built it and it's in Content Snare right now. It's this one here. So if you wanted to, you can literally click straight into it and start using the template. You don't have to do anything. You could then, all the people that you're engaging with, you could bulk send this template out to them all straight away. If you wanted to slightly edit this, you can slightly edit this and then build your own version of that. And that's kind of like the 3 key features I wanted to highlight here. Also, we've got people that are from the UK as well watching this. We've got the self-assessment form here as well. So you can use our templates that are built, or you could create your own template, or you can just create a request from scratch, bulk send it out, and away you go. So they're kind of like the key features that I think are going to help on this process. If you've got any other questions about Content Snare or anything you want to see, do chuck it in the Q&A and we'll make sure that it's answered. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to, make a short run to the finish line now. So let's go back here. Cool. So basically, this is what your process should look like now. And I always refer to it as a bank feed for your client information documents. Like when you first set up a bank feed, rather than the client, you having to chase bank statements and all that sort of stuff, you just get the flow of data in. That's kind of what Content Snare should be for your information documents. So that's what it should look like. Those are the 3 key features that I feel would really help you if this is what you're looking at, the process you're looking at automating. Now it's Q&A time. So if you've got any questions you want to ask, now's the time to do it. Again, if you want to try the product and send out Jackie's template right now, you can literally scan that QR code, fill in a couple of details, and literally send that request out now. Anybody that signs up for a trial right now, first and foremost, will extend your trial for 30 days. Second part of that is you'll be entered to that prize draw where you can win 12 months of Content Snare for free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take any questions now. And Alex, I don't know if you've got any questions that were asked in advance as well that you want to follow.
Just jumping back in, my friend, it seems that you've covered most of the questions that I am in our end as well, with the brilliant demo coming from Jackie and Tom himself. Again, just encourage anyone just to echo what you say to make sure you get the free trial. We're also recording this, so we can also send it round for people to watch back for any tips and tricks as well. I believe you've also shared a link to get a meeting with you as well, Tom. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to run through this a little bit more, you can book a time with me just right there.
And we'll also include that within the email blast after from our end as well that goes out to everyone that attended. So if you haven't got that link right now, don't worry too much. We'll send that around as well.
So Jackie has used Jackie used Content Snare for onboarding process, especially ID check?
Yep, I use it for onboarding because partly I like to use Content Snare for everything. Partly it creates a consistent experience for the client. So even from the very beginning, they're used to this is how we're collecting information. So by the time it comes to filling in an ITR questionnaire or whatever it is, they're used to it by then. It also screens for clients who just are completely not going to interact with a computer. I don't want those sorts of clients. But yes, so what I have recently set up for myself is a template that is a tax agent authority, ID check, and collects their tax file number. Just those 3 things in an onboarding. And I have a whole pile of other onboarding templates as well that I mix and match together, depending on what the client needs. But yes, onboarding, absolutely. Definitely can do that. Everything. I use it onboarding. I use it business clients, queries, literally anytime I need to get any information from clients.
Amazing. Any other questions? Obviously, do fire them. Cool. Here we go. How would you use Content Snare as a portal to upload one-off sensitive information or documents.
Well, you can do that. You could, if you wanted to, create a questionnaire request that has just one question, which is, here is your document. Attach that document to the question and send it to the client. Nothing to stop you from doing that. You can also make questions confidential, which is what I've done with my requesting the TFN question. And then they have to, it sort of hides it a little bit. But yeah, nothing to stop you from doing a one question request, upload a document.
On that point as well, Susan, if you're looking at pushing information to the client, so you want to send the document to the client, we've just released our client portal, which is in beta, and that is for you to be able to put documents in a portal for your clients. So that could also be a way, and that's in beta right now. You might have access to it. If not, we can look at getting you set up with it.
Yeah, I saw that pop up come up yesterday. I was a bit excited.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since we're on it, we'll go. We can go over it. So basic.
Just to say, so we might be covering it. So we've also just had come in. Does Contents now have an e-sign function? So I don't know if you're going to cover that in the next bit.
We can touch on that. So yeah, basically the portal is the ability for you as an accountant bookkeeper to send information to your clients. So it's not about a request. It might be a sensitive piece of information. You can send that obviously through the portal, but we've also got what we're calling like a global portal. So what that means is if you wanted a piece of information, whether that be T's and C's, price lists, to be sent to all of your clients, you could just pop that into your global portal. Question about does Content Snare have an e-sign function in it? Yes, we have a signature field that you can have people sign. So for example, on the ITR request, you can, at the bottom of that, you can say sign off. You could also use the date field on that as well. Then the other question is, we have clients email their tax docs, and when we look at the last year's work, send questions asking for missing info. This is a personalized for every client. We wouldn't want to send them the full questionnaire in this instance, as they've already said to us. Do you ever send custom requests for circumstances like this?
So my clients don't send me anything until I send them the questionnaire. If they try to send me things, I'm like, no, hold off, hold that thought. I will send you a questionnaire. That's how I gather information. They're like, okay. So I don't know if you want to turn your process back and forth, but upside down, and say to the clients, just hold off, just hold on to that thought. Don't send it yet. Fill in the questionnaire. But that said, if you do want them to send in and you want to send them queries, absolutely. I do that with my business clients. I send them queries. I just do a questionnaire, which is just the questions that I need them to answer. The other thing you could do, if you didn't want to, you could either start from a blank questionnaire and add the questions you wanted to ask them, or you could start with the template and delete the questions you don't want, that you already have the information for. So you could go either way depending on what is more efficient for you. But yeah, absolutely, you can do it like that if you want. I just find it's more efficient to tell the clients to hold off sending anything until I send them the questionnaire.
You could as well, if you wanted to as well, you could say you've got like a list of queries so that's come in, one of your team look through it and say, this is a list of queries. You could copy and paste those queries into the smart AI in Content Snare, and that would then just build a request for you. And you could just send off like a one-off request. Also, just on the, circling back to Anna's point about e-signature, if you were looking for like official on PDF document signing, we are building in a few integrations. James is going to give me the green light to say that we're building a few integrations. One of those is FewSign, the other is Adature. So we're going to be bringing them into the platform as well.
I'm so excited for that, just saying.
Cool. Have we got any other questions before we round off?
I think we might be good. They started to roll in towards the end there. We started to have a good conversation, so it was exciting.
Probably
like I said. Cool. Like I said, if you've got any other questions, what you can do is, first and foremost, ask them now. Alternatively, you can book a time with me and we can run through any specific use cases. I've put my link in the questions, so hopefully you can all see there. If not, it's also in the chat, and we'll also follow up with you as well. Jackie, if anyone's got any questions, would you be open to them reaching out to you?
Absolutely. Please do.
How would they best do that? LinkedIn?
I can put in the questionnaire, in the Q&A, I will put my email address.
And I will make sure that's included in the follow-up as well, Jackie.
Yep, send me an email if you want to ask how I do things. Happy to.
Amazing. And I think final thought from Mary, which is brilliant. If I hadn't already subscribed, I would absolutely do it today. Thank you, Mary. Great to hear. I think that says more about Jackie than anything else. When I said at the start of the session, Jackie's a legend. She is every interaction I've had with Jackie, she's been phenomenal and just think so far ahead. And I think this really demonstrated. And I want to thank you for your time for this as well.
And can I just say that if once you get into making templates, it becomes relaxing, I find. I just really like making templates. It's fun.
Therapeutic. Content snare therapeutic. Yep. Is that what we're saying?
Try it out. Let me know how you go.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time, Tom, Jackie. I really appreciate it. As I say, we will follow up with the links for the recording, the calendar link, and Jackie's email. So if you need anything else from that front, you can reach out to them, and you can always reach out to us as well, and we can forward any questions on if you do fail in any other way. So have a great day, guys, or great evening wherever you are, and remember to share the recording as well when you get it, because it's good for everyone to know. Thanks again, guys, for your time.
Thanks all.